Thank you for joining us. We are very excited to have you all this morning. And I'm very excited to present our first speaker. So our first person is PhD Youth Health Dreamers, and it is presented by Alejandra Silva Hernandez. Alejandra, you have the Zoom floor.
Thank you so much. That was so powerful how you said my name. Oh, I haven't ever heard it like that. Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Can you see it? Wonderful. Okay. So like Jessie mentioned, my name is Alejandra. I'm going to be talking about undocumented students pursuing careers in health science. I work with Pre-Health Dreamers, and we're an organization that really focuses on mentorship, on policy, on making sure that students who are interested in different health careers have the support regardless of their immigration status, and that we support institutions themselves in supporting their students. So today I'll be talking a little bit about our PEEP program. It's a graduate readiness program about different paths towards healthcare, some challenges that undocumented students should kind of be aware of, and practical resources. And I'll be sharing all of these slides with you, so don't worry or panic about screenshotting and getting all those links. I'll be sharing all of with you at the end. And I'll kind of go a little bit fast just because I want to make sure that you have all of these resources. So I'm kind of just going to be giving the overview of what you're going to be looking at. And again, here is our mission. We believe that immigration status should not exclude anyone from pursuing their dreams of higher education, careers, or contributing to communities. We envision that healthcare system that is accessible and welcoming regardless of their immigration status. And these are kind of like the 4 things that we focus on in terms of programming: the PEEP program, any sort of educational process to make graduate school more inclusive, and policy. Right now, we're based in California, but we're trying to spread our wings to other states. And we recently started the National Community Coalition, in which we're working directly with institutions, whether they are hospitals or graduates programs, to change the way things are run, to make it more inclusive. If that institution is already very well prepared to support undocumented students, we tailor our training to take them up to the next level. And I'm actually one of the participants in one of these mentorship programs, the PEEP, the Peer Engagement and Enrichment Program. I keep coming back. So I'm an alum from 2017, 2019, and 2020. And this is a national cohort of undocumented pre-health individuals interested in medicine, dentistry, nursing, physician's assistant, graduate school, you name it. We provide career advising and professional development. We provide community advocacy and personal and professional development. And what's amazing and so unique is that, you're surrounded by undocumented students. You don't have to explain the path that you've walked. And all of them are interested in health. So you have like both of those 2 worlds in one. And right now we're almost done with our current cohort, but expect to kind of hear about the next cohort sometime in the fall 2022. And you can sign up to our listserv to receive any updates about that and scholarships and anything that we kind of sort of blast out to everybody through our listserv. And so specifically for Illinois, it's so wonderful, but SB 3109 actually prohibits state officials from denying professional licenses to anyone based on their immigration or citizenship status. So applicants can apply with their ITIN number instead of the Social Security number for any of these licenses. It can be MD, RN, PA, any of these. And even with this law, you might encounter some graduate programs within Illinois who will just not be aware of it, who might right now say we don't accept undocumented students. And you can use this law to advocate for yourself and say there's actually no reason why this student shouldn't be allowed to enter the program. If at any point you do have immigration-based concerns, we recommend that you speak with a lawyer. Sometimes you can explore local organizations, or your university might have a pro bono or clinic legal system that can kind of do an intake and maybe address some of your basic concerns. But if you are looking for more long-term follow-up with a lawyer, then you can look through this website, Immigration Advocates Network. And like I mentioned, I'll provide the link for this, and you can actually look by zip code for different organizations in your area. Another great organization is the Medical Organization for Latino Advancement. Right now, they actually have a DACA mentorship program. And again, I think that's maybe like almost all the way through. This is like prime pre-application season. So that's why all of these programs are kind of running around this time. But go ahead and like follow them on social media. They're going to have a conference in May. Feel free to contact them or visit their website. And they're just doing a lot of support. And I'm not sure if they're actually like blasting out that they're like really helping undocumented students or students with DACA, but they definitely are. So now I'll give a brief introduction to health professions. And it's a lot of information. So I kind of maybe want to tailor some of it. If you could share in the chat what graduate programs you're interested in pursuing, that'd be wonderful just to get a better idea. But some of the questions that you might ask if you're not quite sure, if you're still exploring, do some shadowing and self-reflection. Some of the questions that you might ask yourself is, do you enjoy working with people? Or do you prefer to be behind the scenes? In what capacity would you like to do hands-on patient care? Do you want to work as part of a team? Do you want to work in large settings and smaller settings? And do you work well under pressure? And all of this, it might take months or even years to decide what the right health profession is. But what's important is to do shadowing, to do this self-reflection, and to have mentorship. Okay, so in the chat, let's see. I see Masters of Public Health. Yes. And PA programs. That's excellent. Okay. So those are definitely careers that undocumented folks can definitely apply to, whether you have DACA, whether you have TPS, whether you don't have a social security number, you can apply to those programs. And here I've highlighted a few: dentistry, physical therapy, and physician's assistant, because once you're done with the school, you don't have to go on to do a residency program. You can if you want to specialize, but what's important for that is that if you don't have a social security number, you can go through the school, get your dental degree, get your physical therapy degree, get your PA degree, and then you can go out into the real world to practice. And then here are, different levels of educational level of education. So for example, I think we automatically just think of like medicine and dental school and pharmacy as being like the health degrees, but there's so many. And you can go after 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, master's programs, or the doctoral program if you want, or you can do like a combination. Maybe you started with a 2-year degree, work for a few years, generate some income, and then you come back to school later on. I do want to prepare you though, because it's going to be a lot of advocacy, a lot of self-advocacy. And what's important is to just keep on top of the timelines and maybe add a year of whatever you find online. If they tell you, oh, you can start preparing for this a year before you apply, for undocumented students, make it like 2 years or 3 years, right? You can never start asking questions too early. You can never start talking to these schools too early. So I'll share some timelines for medical school, PA school, nursing school, just to get an idea. And then you can start talking to different universities. And why that's important, it's because you're going to encounter so many people that might say no, and then maybe it takes having a conversation with you to change a procedure. And in addition to that, being able to kind of understand what kind of expenses you're going to be facing even before you get into the program, right? Just in terms of application fees and entrance exams fees, if you have to travel to do interviews, professional attire, all of that. So here I'm going to be sharing a script with you, and whether you have DACA, TPS, or no social security number, you can tailor it and you can send it off to different schools. I know it can be like so intimidating. So like, it's good to just have this template ready in case you have to have those tough conversations. But at the end of the day, you have to face like how amazing you are and how deserving of all of that you are. Like you have had to do so much just to get to this point, to be at this conference, to hear that you're not the only undocumented student interested in health careers. And all of those experiences that you've had, they're so unique. And you're bringing so much into any program that you choose to go. You know, you're bicultural, but you're bilingual. You've had life teach you how to be a leader, how to be a team player, how to become adaptable and a problem solver. They don't teach you that at graduate school, but you're going to be bringing in those skills already. So even if you don't have the best GPA or the best test score, like you have to apply to these programs, even if they seem impossible, because you do have so much to bring. And it's a real person looking at your application. They're going to take that into account. They're going to give a holistic review. So research the school, you know, it's kind of like you're interviewing them. Do they meet your mission? You know, do they align well with what you want to do? It's not just like, I'm undocumented. I only like 5 schools out of the 150 will actually grant me access because of my status. So I'm not sure that I can be picky. That's true, but you want to go to a place where they'll embrace you and they'll support you. So when you're sharing, whether it's in a scholarship, personal statement, statement of purpose, internship, or mentoring programs, know that you have the power to decide what you share, how much you share, and you can always use codes. And we at Pre-Health Dreamers are really used to helping students tailor their application however comfortable they are with their immigration status. Something to keep in mind, the ping pong effect, it's a lot. So when you're applying or you're asking questions at institutions that have never worked with undocumented students, and even with those that have like a really fancy, we support undocumented students website, they might not know individually as, you know, staff member or administrators or professors how to help you. So they might like send you to another person, and that person sends you to another person, and that person sends you to another. That's called the ping pong effect. And it's so exhausting and you'll face burnout. So I just kind of want you to be prepared for that. What that means is that you're the expert. You're the one who's going to be, you know, advocating for the resources that you need. So just, you know, kind of like own that and ask for resources. And, you know, it's the school's job, especially once you've admitted, to support you. And if you don't have a social security number, it's a little bit harder, but it's not impossible, okay? So here is going to be a link to a list of internships that have different requirements. Some of them will be only for DACA, but some of them are for people without a social security number. And if you ever encounter a program where it says, you know, they need you to be a permanent resident or a US citizen, send them an email. It could be they just copied and pasted from another website and they've never even thought about undocumented students. So they might not be able to open it up that year, whether it's like an internship or like a scholarship, but the following year they might be able to change that. So just contact the institutions or organizations and let them know if you have DACA, that you have employment authorization. They understand that. They might not understand DACA. If you don't have a social security number and you're going into one of these internships or clinicals where they want to do a background check, you can do a background check without a social security number. Having an I-team will help with that. And so some of the pushback might be from these schools and hospitals and clinics that they don't accept a non-social security background number background check, right? So that's where it becomes a little bit tougher and you start asking questions, well, why? You know, there's other companies that are able to do the background check and in other states. And I think, you know, in Illinois, you might not encounter that so much, but definitely if you're applying for out of state or anything, you can definitely push back and ask why. In the case that, you know, you go through your program, you've graduated, and now, you know, other students who are US citizens or residents might be going into residency programs, but without a social security number, you wouldn't be able to do that. So what do? You can go ahead and become a practitioner and a private duty, they call it, where basically you are working for a family and they are directly paying you. You can become an independent contractor, you can become a business, or you can, if it's part of, for example, nursing, they have an option called cooperative education, where it's kind of like you extend your education, but now they pay you. And then for internships, that could be another option where you're still kind of technically falling under a student. So you have to be very, very creative, but there's different options. And here we have a list of like, if you're a business, what can you do? You know, if you have no social security number, but now you have this, 4-year degree, then you can open up this business and you become the product, right? You can go ahead and have your business do vendor fairs, personal training, you can open a fitness center, massage therapy service, you become a private dietitian or nutritionist, or you run a home healthcare agency, or you run mobile medical screening, you become a midwife or doula service, or you have like a fitness equipment sales, or you can practice concierge or private medicine, right? So it's all of these things that you have to be really creative with, but there's a way. Like we've had so many students be the first in their programs, even before DACA. So it's not something that is very well known, but it can definitely be done. And here's a list of our resources from our website. And I'll also have the link to our website so you can explore other aspects, not just like what we're doing in terms of supporting students, but also in supporting policy change. And feel free to reach out to me. This is my email with Pre-Health Dreamers. And we also have different social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. So please get connected to us and feel free to send us a message. We're more than happy to help with personal statements, with advocating at different institutions. If you get stuck in any part of the path, please let us know. Like we'll work with you and become that buffer if you don't feel comfortable disclosing your status to different institutions. And does anybody have any questions? I'm not sure like if we have a lot of time, but I went through that fast so that, you could ask specific questions.
So Alejandra, we do have 15 minutes for people to have questions. So I invite all students or any professional staff to come ahead, ask us any questions that you guys might have for Alejandra.
Yes, I actually have a question for you, Alejandra. So I know that you support students, with getting into the program and then throughout their program. Do you have, I know one of the challenges we often encounter is funding, right? How are we going to fund these healthcare programs? Is there any, like in your website, is there any scholarships or that you have, what is it, or partners that you're working with that provide any type of funding for students that are going into healthcare careers?
Yeah, we have a list of scholarships, and it's so true for graduate school. There's like fewer funding in general, but for undocumented students, there's like even less. And I think what's important is to be able to advocate for the school to provide most of the funding. So if you have somebody in your family who can like co-sign for you for a loan, that's wonderful. That's an option, but it's still something that's like rarely seen in our communities. So it's not realistic to kind of just say that as a blanket statement for all students. But what I think is really important is that in the beginning, when you're applying to different programs, is to apply to, private universities. They have a lot of funding. Apply to, your number one choice and to like a reach school. And then once you get into all of those programs, you can use the financial aid package that one university offers to kind of leverage and ask for more or a better financial package from the other university. So for example, if you apply to 3 schools and you get into all of them, you might only get an offer from one of them, and it might not be a lot, but you can then tell the other school, maybe it's your number one school, like, hey, this is the financial aid package that this other school is offering me. I really like X, Y, and Z about your school, and I would love to come here, but you know, right now, financially speaking, I would not be able to afford to come here. Would it be possible to talk to a financial aid officer, to apply to endowments, onto scholarships? And you say that kind of language, like, would it be possible for me to, you know, apply? So it kind of, they can start to see you as a person, like, hey, this is a person who is like hardworking, who has had to like fight all of their life, and they're not asking for a handout. They're asking for another, you know, opportunity to apply to scholarships. And a lot of the times, you know, they do have that money. They have private endowments, or they can reach out to like private funders who are linked to the university and tell them, hey, there's a unique situation. We have a student who wants to come here to this school, but they don't have the resources. Is it possible to get additional funding? Or they can move things around, right? And so once, you know, that school maybe gives a little bit of a better financial package, you can go back to the previous school and kind of go back and forth, you know, as many times as they let you, to see, you know, initially when I applied to my program, I had maybe 10% covered. And after that negotiation, I had 50% covered. And then the rest was kind of like a scramble of like private scholarships that I applied to in the past. I just reached out to them and told them like, hey, I'm now applying to graduate school. The school is willing to help me 50% with my tuition. And even if they didn't have like a scholarship open right then, because they've known me, they've given me scholarships in the past, they were able to like, you know, do their magic and provide a little bit of additional funding. There's also a couple of organizations that are giving scholarships to health professionals, and I'll add them to the document that I share with you. So it's just like so hard, but you have to do this research like all the time. It becomes a part-time job, and that's another thing to kind of watch out for, that on top of, you know, learning how to be a graduate school, because it's another level, learning how to navigate the resources that they have available, you're going to have to be constantly applying to scholarships. And I think it's better to kind of look at those scholarships a year or 2 years in advance to kind of have that in mind. I think a lot of us who are undocumented here, you know, like, don't worry about the finances, just like focus on your grades and applying, and you'll figure it out later. And you know, you can also fall under that trap because it seems like an impossible feat. Like, how are you going to afford a $45,000 a year program or more? But you have to start looking for those scholarships early and then just mark the dates. Okay, so this year, this scholarship was open around this time and it was due around this time, and they asked for letters of recommendation, so that then the following year, when you're ready to apply, like, you already know when to start applying, when to start asking for letters of recommendation. If at the last second you find a scholarship, it's due in 3 days and you need a letter of recommendation, ask for that letter of recommendation for professors. I did that. I did that to my professor, my amazing professor. She came through, she wrote it in like a day and submitted it, and I got that scholarship. So don't feel like guilt or like you're not enough. Like, we have so much to handle. We can't let those emotions that are like kind of putting us down from our own heads let us not apply to those scholarships or those internships. It's I think imposter syndrome, and also just, you know, lack of representation that makes us feel that way. But we just have to go for it, because you know, we've all fought so much to get here, and we have to give us the best possible option. And that means, you know, asking for last minute letters of recommendation, you know, constantly emailing those professors that don't get back to you. If you have their office number, you know, calling them, even if it feels like you're pushing boundaries, like, you have to get those letters of recommendation, right? So don't let that hold you back. Oh, and I see somebody posted if there's like a list of background check providers that are set ITIN in Illinois. I'm not sure, like the one that I'm gonna share, we're not trying to do free advertisement for them. It's just like an example. And they specifically just like, if you don't have social security number, they just put like 0000. So you might find one where they do that, or they put 1111, like 9 ones. And then so there's not like one specific service that we recommend. I'm not sure if anybody else has an idea, but maybe you could find it here at the Immigration Advocates Network site, or you can contact one of the organizations that are listed there based on your zip code, and they might have a better idea. I'm over here in Washington State, so I'm not sure that I will be able to help name any specific ones.